So before we get into the 4R model, what are some of the things that can be addressed or solved using the 4R model, some of the problems or obstacles, impediments that you might run into uh, when you're working with individuals and teams? And this is for every part of the organization. It doesn't matter if a person works by themselves, if they're working with a team, or if they're working with the product, program, process part of the equation, or if they're working with the portfolio, leaders, executive C-suite. It all applies because it's people in all four boxes. And right up front, team member well-being. Look, if people don't feel good, if they're simply even, for example, not getting enough sleep, they've shown research, or they've done studies where the research has shown that if you're only sleeping like 4 hours a night, your risk of heart attack increases like 4 or 5 times, or whatever it is. It does go up. And so you're putting yourself at unnecessary risk if you're not just simply getting enough sleep physically. Or you could be battling all kinds of things. It's a little tough, you know. People can come into work, everybody has an off day. People can be really upset or grouchy or unhappy about things that have absolutely nothing to do with work. It could be a family member might be ill. They might be fighting a battle with cancer, or they might be fighting some other physical medical battle that we don't know anything about. And so uh, one of the you see a lot of these internet memes about be kind to everybody because you just don't know what they might be going through. And so team member well-being, I think that they've done enough studies by now that show if your people are doing well, then your teams and your company will be doing well. As I had shared earlier about employee disengagement and had a picture there that showed it was a really good picture of the Gallup poll. I think it was from 2018 for the employee engagement survey that they do globally. And the numbers were dismal. This was all the way back in the Brutal's Facts section of the videos that we're recording here, way back in the beginning of the slides. If only 13% are fully engaged, man, that means 87% are either disengaged or aggressively disengaged, that to the point where that 20% that's aggressively disengaged, they're actively working against the goals of your company. Also, the 4R model can be used if you're looking at somebody's results and you see that they're struggling to get up to higher levels of performance. We use both the AHA model, the 4R model, and the flow friction analysis to address that. And the 4R model can also be used to address the lack of trust and safety at the individual level, because everybody's personality is different. All of these frameworks and theories and everything works great until you actually add people into the equation. And that's where the rubber hits the road. And this is where the 4R model in flow excels at really truly getting to the root causes of what might be preventing a person from achieving a sustainable high performance, getting into the flow. If we can get people each into the individual flow on a team, it makes it easier to get the whole team into the flow. Over here, on the right, you'll see I had a case example in Singtel. It's also in our book, Flow. That's one of the premier examples of all of these problems were addressed using flow in that particular assignment. So I'm not gonna do a spoiler here, but when you come to do the actual flow 1 day hands-on exercise only training event. So we're collapsing it from 2 days to 1 day. When you actually go through the exercises are the first step to help you take all of these thoughts and frameworks and patterns out of the books, out of the training, out of the videos, and bring it into real life. And in the classroom, when you do the exercises, it's there when most people get their first, aha, okay, now this makes sense. And then the second aha is when they take it and start using it in their daily work. So, for example, you might put a T-shaped personal Kanban on your desk with post-it notes where you have doing on the left and done on the right. Or as one of my coworkers wrote, work harder. That was really great. And so working harder. But anyways, when you start to model the behavior, when you start to demonstrate, hey, this works, and people start to look at it and they go, hey, what's this? Oh, okay, he makes his work transparent. I know exactly what Andrew is working on. Oh, wow, this really works. He's consistent, and he's demonstrating how this actually works. And by definition, folks, that's leadership. Remember, there are only three things that happen naturally in an organization. That's confusion, friction, and underperformance. Everything else requires leadership. Everything else. And so you have to, when you're working with your teams, you have to demonstrate that leadership for your team so that they begin to build the confidence in what you're talking about. You're actually walking the talk and delivering what you said you were going to deliver. So it's extremely important to model the behavior to demonstrate the mindset. It's the difference between just doing and being. Doing is the tool set. We can teach the tool set to anybody. Being and adopting it and turning it into a mindset, that is something that is much harder to do. It requires individual transformation to achieve that. So as we're looking at the 4R model here, and you've got right truth, right values and attitudes, right actions, right results with the vision in the middle. And for the individual, I include the spirit because that goes right back to well-being. People are multidimensional. It's genetics, it's environment, and then it's choice. And we will get into personality here in just a little bit before we go on to the 4D model. And when you're dealing with people, it's really important to help them understand that there's a root cause for everything that they do, and that root cause is basically the truth by which they live. We call that a worldview. Some people might call it a philosophy. Some people might look at it from a religious perspective. By the way, the first three, right truth, right values, and right actions, those three are the foundation of every religion and every philosophy, every ism that's on the planet, every one of them. So it doesn't matter if you're religious or not because you still live by some philosophy. And if I'm using this framework over time, let's say 6 sprints, 3 months, over time, if I've had a chance to work with you and observe you and watch you within a range, it won't be perfect, but let's say within a bell curve distribution, I'll be able to predict what your truth is because I'll have watched you via your actions, via your results, and through conversation and the words that you use, I will be able to deduce what values and attitudes you're operating from. And so this becomes core of what we do because everything we do deals with people. So when you look at the flow friction analysis and you're thinking about the vision plus the right people plus the 4D model, and we go through what happens if you don't have those things in place. The RP, right people, when you see that RP, right people, just think about the 4R model, because the right person, it might be, you can get people on your team and they might not absolutely be the most perfect team member ever. But that doesn't mean that you can't still achieve great things with that team, regardless of whether or not the person is the right person or not. When you get the group together, it's almost like the group can compensate for underperformers. It's not ideal, but we have to be realistic. We can't get, the Chicago Bulls for our team in the company for every situation that we have, or for every team that we have. There are going to be teams where it's, I don't know, who's a really bad basketball team these days. I don't even know. It's been so long since I've been playing basketball or keeping up with the sport. Let's say Portland Trailblazers, or I don't know who's on top, or Cleveland. Uh, let's just choose a team that's at the bottom of the league. You're going to have a distribution. Not everybody's the Chicago Bulls or the Celtics or the Lakers. The Lakers have been on top a lot. The Celtics have been on top a lot. But not everybody can always be at the top. But you can still get solid performers. And so I would rather have a team of solid performers that I can help get into states of higher performance that they can sustain than sometimes dealing with a team of stars where you might have egos that are crashing into each other. And if you've ever worked with a team full of prima donnas, you'll find it quite exhausting. But anyways, right truth, right values, right actions is the foundation of every philosophy and religion out there on the planet. I added right results to complete the model, because if you get the first three right, hopefully you're going to get the right results. And if not, then on the next slide, we'll look at how we use this in reverse to do root cause analysis. If you're not getting the right results, then first place I look is, well, what did they do? What were the actions? And then I'm going to look at, well, why did they do that? What were the values and attitudes behind it? And ultimately, 9 times out of 10, I already know that, okay, they misunderstood something, and it was clear to me that their quote-unquote truth that they were working from wasn't correct. Now, people say, well, you can't modify people's truths. And it's just like, oh, come on. If that were true, companies wouldn't spend millions or even billions of dollars a year collectively on training. They wouldn't waste their time. And if you look at the amount of training that's out there, it's just stunning. It's amazing how much training, certifications, just for Agile certifications. Recently, I heard that somebody had counted up 102 Agile certifications, and they even said, we're not sure this is a complete list. Well, if you've got 102 different truths for Agile, or worldviews for Agile, and ways to do Agile, well, guess what? That means that you've got a lot of different truths that you have to be dealing with as an organization. But the reality is companies wouldn't waste a single penny on this if we weren't able to help modify people's truths, at least for what they're working with at work. You're probably never going to change their religious or philosophical views per se. There are some religions that are extremely dogmatic, where if you try to convert them to another religion, they may become very violent with you. And so in that sense, people would probably correct to say, hey, we can't change their truth. But from a business perspective, absolutely, we can change your truth. That we've been doing this for a long time in business, and human nature has not changed in the last 3,000 or 4,000 years.